Rick, Hale. It is Mojo Monday, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing amazingly well, Brett. What a beautiful day to have a Mojo Monday. Let's make
It
it happen.
is always a beautiful day for a Mojo Monday. No pressure, but we love playing our music before these Mojo Mondays kick off. Yet somehow the internet world will boot us if we play copyrighted music. So Rick's promised to write a song. I've challenged him to grab that guitar and just start singing, but I'm not sure that's going to happen today.
It
But
probably won't
it's
happen
coming.
today.
One of these days, we're going to have a Mojo Monday song.
I got my mojo, my
All
Mojo
right.
Monday. I've written a couple lines, but man, I am a little insecure about it. That's for sure, man. I like playing the backup
You
role
know
in a
what?
band.
Let's do a Mojo on being insecure and just putting ourselves out there. But
All right, so guys,
not
keep an eye
today.
out.
Not
Keep an eye
today.
out for that episode. It's coming.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So we're still in our book, The Algebra of Happiness. And actually, I think we're going to probably wrap the book with this conversation today. And it's kind of a conversation I wasn't expecting. And it's one of the latter chapters. And it's titled Love a Kid Who Isn't Your Own.
Hmm.
And I'm like, wow, okay. So obviously, we're predestined to love our own children, or I guess most of the time, right?
Yeah.
Yet, loving a child that's not your own is a totally selfless extra layer, I think. What do you think about when we talk about this?
It just reminds me of the simple principle that whether it's a child or not, I mean, I'll start with this. I think all adults are really children masquerading in adult bodies. And
Yeah.
deep down, we have the same needs, wants. We just play in a different playing field, but the same energy that's inside your body for feeling loved, accepted, appreciated. Those are just human traits, regardless of age. And as you evolve, I think they become more obvious. And
Um,
I think the reason it's in the algebra of happiness is that there was, if you want to love yourself more, love other people more. And I think kids are an easy opportunity to boost because of just, I mean, they're all seeking role models and good examples of what it looks like to level up. And so his
yeah.
example was, again, it was a child when he was a child, and how someone else mentored and shepherded him when I guess there was a lack of father figure in his world.
Well, but it wasn't even specifically that. It was just the fact that the guy didn't have to, and the guy just chose to.
Yeah.
And chose to give world advice, chose to give a guiding hand. And it left such an impact on his life. It's now here we are talking about it on Mojo Monday, right? Like, I mean, it was a big deal. And I think it changed his heart.
Yeah.
And it's probably why he chose the profession he did, where he's a university professor and an author. And, I mean, it changes the world sometimes.
It does. And there's two types of relationships that I've examined and witnessed, and one is relational and the other is transactional. And so, and it kind of goes back to there's a term I heard a while back: take a disproportionate interest in others, and you'll always feel love and appreciation. So that disproportionate piece means that you're taking a relational interest, and that the hierarchy of relevance is it's all about the relationship. When it's transactional, it's when you behave in a certain way with an expected return or an expectation of some payback that's as good or better than what you invested. And I suppose there's a time and place for that too, but real happiness is when you've got so much abundance in your heart and mind that you have more than enough to share, regardless of the return.
Absolutely. As we were preparing for this call today, I think one of my ahas is this isn't as big of an aspect of my life as maybe I wish it was. And it's one of the things that I admire the most about you, Rick, is I watch you. I know your story. I read your book, Stop Settling. And I know that there were a lot of people that took interest in you and your childhood journey and your journey up growing into adulthood. And I know all the people that you share your gifts of the world with as well. And it's inspiring, but maybe as you're self-reflecting, what is it about those people that poured into you as a child that shaped who you are as a person today?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. One is what were what were the deficits as a child, and how do it's an interesting reality that I think we're mirrors. And so when you pour into someone else, you're inadvertently or you're pouring into yourself. That's the human experience. And as an adult, I look back at my childhood, which those that have read the book know, or have heard my story, it was turbulent, man. I went to 10 schools in 12 years and spent a year in Venezuela. And there are a few key people in my life that I look back and go, man, those were short durations of time. And, it made all the difference in the world in my self ability to look in the mirror and feel self-worth, worthy of love, worthy of potential. And then ultimately it evolved into confidence, or self-confidence. And so their voice mattered. One was a stepfather for 2 years when I was in 7th and 8th grade, and his family, I was almost really a foster child by definition, because I wasn't theirs, legally or by blood. And long story short, he ended up unfortunately twisted up with Uncle Sam over a lawsuit with setting up offshore corporations, ended up in prison. So that was cut short. But in those 2 years, man, that guy really took a disproportionate interest in me, spent a lot of time and energy, we traveled the world when I wasn't in school, and I saw cool places like Paramaribo, Suriname. I went on a safari. I went to the islands a few times, Aruba, Curacao, LA, places I just hadn't fathomed at the age of 14. And
Yeah.
the lens of my perspective on potential in terms of being, experiencing the world in a big way changed because of just 2 short years. And another guy in Venezuela, Johnny, I spent 6 weeks with a Venezuelan missionary, and I was really just trying to kind of get away from my mom. We weren't getting along well. I was 16 and a little bit angry and disappointed in our relationship and didn't know how to deal with it. And I'm living with her for a year abroad, and this missionary comes through our village, and we were in the middle of nowhere, Venezuela, close to the Colombian border. And 6 weeks of travel with this guy, he didn't speak English, I didn't speak Spanish. It was just the two of us. It was life altering. And not only because he was intrigued by me and gave me lots of attention, but he also was curious. And I learned to communicate in 6 weeks in a way that we really got to know each other at a deep level. But I had the ability to witness real passion, real commitment. I mean, he was a Christian, and man, he was preaching and speaking the gospel in these little villages. And I was just a third-party witness most of the time. But, I'd never seen real passion. And passion by definition is when you're willing to suffer for something, and it's true commitment. And I'd never seen it like that. And it just changed my life. I also came to the realization that my worst day is probably someone's best day there or anywhere in the world where they're less empowered and capable and have limited resource. So when I came back at 17 to the US, I didn't just want to kiss the ground, Brad. I wanted to eat the dirt. Like, I was that excited to be back in America, land of milk and honey. So if you think you've got it rough, go places and really invest time with the realization we really got a huge advantage in our country.
What did he do that was that love he showed you? What did it do for you, really?
Well, I mean, I think the greatest gift you can give another human is to make them feel heard and appreciated and respected. And at 16,
even if you
man,
don't speak the same language.
I mean, it was comical when I jumped in the truck. He had this, it was almost like a box truck that was converted into a camper van, and it had a bunk bed or 2 beds and a movie projector. We'd show bad 70s, bad colored, movies about, Jesus and Christian movies. But he just took a disproportionate interest. He was intrigued by the idea of traveling with an American at the time. And this is, gosh, if I'm 16, 65, 70, that's 80, 81, 1980. Yeah. So technology wasn't really there, man. We didn't have the internet. So I was like a rolling internet of, what's it like to be an American kid?
Yep. And then fast forward, like I know you've got 4 amazing sons of your own that experienced a lot of your love. And I also observe you give love to kids that aren't yours. I've watched you take them wakeboarding. I've watched you support an organization called Camp Grace. I probably don't even know a tenth of what you do, but why do you do it?
Because I can. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's, I also recognize, from those experiences as a child, not only my own experience of not feeling lovable and challenged by circumstances, I just feel like when you've got much to give, it's a responsibility, and it's not just an opportunity. And I think, again, as Americans, all of us have more than we need and have capacity. And so I just keep putting it out to the universe. If there's a need or opportunity, especially with at-risk kids, I want to be part of that conversation, whether it's writing checks to support organizations or showing up and rolling up my sleeves and, helping build cabins at Camp Grace. I've done that. And what makes it extra cool, and this is that part where, in the story of the algebra of happiness, is that if you can include another young person and help them feel a sense of purpose and potential as part of the project or process. I took a couple of kids from Seven Bridges. It's a homeless shelter for women with children. And a couple of the kids went with me, three of them actually. I took them to Camp Grace for 3 days for a big build project. They were swinging hammers and dragging off debris and helping us literally build houses. And they were 8, 10, and 12. And so
Wow.
what a cool, but back to the gift, it's like, again, the law of reciprocity. I'd love to say that it's all generosity, and I'd like to think I am, but I also know there's intrinsic reward when you help somebody who maybe needs a hand up and not a handout.
There you go. Rick, I guess we didn't prep this, but I realized the title of the book's called The Algebra of Happiness. And not that somebody like myself that doesn't do a lot of extra philanthropy, but wishes they did. It's not that I'm unhappy, but coach me through this. Like, how did that become something of priority to you? I'm sure I'm not alone in those people out there that might even listen to this. Like, we've all said, yeah, I wish I did more, but I'm busy, or
Yeah.
resources are limited, or whatever those conversations might be that go on in our head. Um, what would you say to that?
So I'd say this: if your heart screams for something or even whispers for it, and you feel an energy and a tug, you owe it to yourself to put it to the universe and challenge, the universe to give you the answer or to provide a pathway to exercising that need or want. For me, I go back for, the whole construct in the book, Stop Settling, is 5-year chunks. And
Yeah.
they're big enough that you have time to let opportunity come to you. And it's not like, oh my God, in the next 30 days, I've got to go find this philanthropic solution to my heart and give back. And that's a great thing to try to do, but it's also, it could create stress. For me, it was let it evolve over time. I put it on my 5-year future self 20 years ago that I wanted to, and so get clear who you are, what your gifts are, and then who you want to serve. I think that's the starting place. And then
Okay.
from there, I remember writing, I want to serve at-risk kids who are less fortunate, who need a hand up and not a handout. That's all I had. I didn't have any specific target. And it took about 4 years for the first opportunity to come my way. And then it kind of compounded over time. But that was Camp Grace that showed up, and what a difference we made in that. And then later on in a future, maybe it was 2 times ago, 2 5-year future self. So 10 years back, I want to be part of a mission or another, elevate my philanthropy and elevate. And so we started, Heart of Atlanta Cares as a vehicle to help agents help the community. And that was a cool idea, but I was stressing out about it, Brett, to be honest. So I don't know that stress solves or cures anything, but there needs to be some antagonism to keep you hyper aware of opportunity when it shows up. And the one relieving thought that I had I was at a 2-day, it was called One Life Fully Lived. It was a seminar in Philadelphia of all places. And I'm crafting this, future version of what I want in philanthropic box. And I'm going, man, am I supposed to just start another chair? What am I supposed to do? And I had this epiphany that maybe, what if I'm the spark and not the fire? What if I run around with matches and help light other people who are already in the driver's seat, with that being their full on mission? And so people like Kit Cummings with, the Power of Peace Project and his community aware, efforts. And what if it's, Dave Pridemore and Camp Grace? What if there's 2 nonprofits I serve every summer where all I do is show up with my boat and I teach kids how to kneeboard and tube who've never been in the water or on a boat. One of the group favors foster children, the other inner city kids through a summer camp system. And they're just great charities who have the structure. I just show up and play a small role, and it takes the
Yeah.
pressure off, but I still get that intrinsic, I guess, fuel for making a difference. And it might feed you to something bigger in a small step kind of way.
Gotcha. So clarify this for me to round us out today. If you were going to give me a 3-step, a 5-step, or process to move in this direction of loving a child who's not my own or our own, what would you tell me?
Get clear on your gifts, and then find someone who's already in that lane, or that, has that as a philanthropic, they own it. And then just, again, you can Google for this stuff, whether it's homeless, feed the homeless, or some charity, inner city charity, or there's foster children. There's a million ways to get engaged and involved. So get clear on what you think your core genius and gifts are, and then figure out a target audience. Like, who is it that you would really get excited to go, take a few hours every few weeks? Maybe it's even Boys and Girls Club. And then go connect the dots with people who are in that lane, and go interview them for opportunity. And whether it's write a check or show up for an event, sponsor something, or, I a couple of kids at Seven Bridges, for 3 years, they'd come up and surf and ski with us. And I would, we rented a bus once and took all the kids roller skating at Christmas time. And it was just one of the more fulfilling things to do. It was terrifying and fulfilling. It was my buddy Steve and I think we had 35 kids on skates. Half of them had never skated. It was probably not liability great, but it was awesome in the end. And no one came home broken.
Yep.
So identify opportunities and connect the dots with people who are in their lane, doing things you'd wish you could do more of.
I
That's
love it.
the easy.
Rick, it is Mojo Monday. Thank you for sharing today, because this, honestly, this isn't something I feel super qualified to talk about yet. It certainly apparently is part of the algebra of happiness. So
Yep.
thank you, Scott Galloway. Thank you, Rick Hale.
Yep.
Mojo Monday.
Mojo Monday. And finish that that statement with, so far not qualified yet.
So far.
So far. Take care, everybody.